it's Sarah. Welcome back to my channel. Or for those of you who are watching for the first time, welcome to my channel. On this channel, I create videos about the college and graduate school admission processes so that you guys know everything you need to know in order to get into the schools of your dreams. In today's video, I'm going to be answering a question that a lot of students who are looking to go to medical school end up asking me. And that is, should I take a gap year? And there's a lot of things to think about when deciding whether or not to take a gap year. And so I wanted to go into detail today about what those different considerations are so that you guys can figure out which choice is best for you. So I'm going to first start by talking about going straight through. So this means you go right from college to medical school and you don't have a year-long break in between. If you choose that option, you will be applying to medical school during the spring of your junior year of college. You'll be writing your secondary essays during the summer before your senior year, and then you'll be actually going to medical school interviews during your senior year of college. I'm now going to talk about some of the benefits of choosing this path. I would say one of the biggest benefits is you get to be a doctor as soon as possible. If you're someone who's dreamed of being a physician from as early as you can remember, you might just want to get through schooling as quickly as you can so you can get to that end goal of actually being a physician. By going straight through, you eliminate any extra time and you get to that goal quickly. The second benefit of going straight through is that you start earning money more quickly. And so let's say you are burdened with a lot of student debt from college and it's starting to compound interest and really stressing you out. In that case, it might be a good idea to go straight from college to medical school so you can start earning a physician's salary as quickly as possible and pay off some of that student debt. However, I would say one of the biggest downsides of going straight through is that you don't get a break. You've just gone through 4 years of college, 4 years full of stress and anxiety and tests, and sometimes it's nice just to be able to take a year and decompress. But if you go straight through, you won't have that luxury. Instead, you'll finish your senior year of college, and then a few months later, you'll embark on the medical school journey. And trust me, that journey is tough and stressful and busy as well. And so if you're already starting to feel burnt out by the end of college, going straight through might not be the best choice for you. The second downside of going straight through is that you don't have as much time to craft your application and resume. You are submitting your application during your junior year, and so your senior year grades won't even show up in the application at first. Furthermore, if you're involved in a bunch of stuff senior year, most of this will also not make it onto your medical school application. And so if you have a really strong resume, you've done a ton of things during your first 3 years of college, and you have an outstanding GPA, you might not even need to take a gap year to sort of bolster your application. But if your application isn't the strongest, that extra time might be very valuable. So that's sort of the summary of some pros and cons of choosing to go straight from college to medical school. I'm now going to transition into talking a little bit about the pros and cons of taking a gap year. So if you choose to take a gap year, you'll be doing most of your application stuff either during your senior year of college or once you've graduated. Your application will happen during your senior spring, secondaries will take place over the summer, and then you'll actually go to your medical school interviews during the fall and winter of your gap year. Some of the biggest pros, I would say, of taking a gap year are that you do get that break that I talked about earlier. You get a chance to decompress and really relax and not have to be so stressed and anxious about tests and grades and learning. And I would say another really big pro is that you get to actually go into the world and figure out who you are as a person. Up until this point in your life, you've been in school. From kindergarten to senior year of college, all you've really learned to do is be a student. You go to school, you learn, you study, you take tests, and you kind of just repeat that over and over again. If you take a gap year, you really have an opportunity to venture out into the world and figure out what's really important to you in the setting of the real world. What do you want your career to look like? What sorts of things do you value, and what sorts of things are you willing to sacrifice for a career? And I think a gap year gives you a lot of time to really be reflective and think about what is important to you and what drives you. A lot of students find a gap year very transformative for that reason. They start their gap year as one person, and by the end of that year, they are completely different. And what they saw for their future has completely changed. And I think that period of introspection can be really, really valuable. A final benefit of taking a gap year is that you have more time to strengthen your application. Let's say you didn't do super well in classes during the beginning of college. If you have killer senior year grades, your science and regular GPAs will just naturally increase if you wait another year to apply. Furthermore, all the activities you take part in senior year will also show up on your application. And if you're proactive and have already chosen what you're doing during your gap year, you can list that on your application as well. And so a lot of students find that taking a gap year really does give them an opportunity to strengthen the quality of their application. Something I do want to note though, if you are taking a gap year to strengthen your application, it's really important that you think proactively about what you are going to do during that gap year. A lot of research fellowships, a lot of academic programs, even a lot of jobs will start recruiting applicants months before those positions actually start. Start thinking about what you want to do during that gap year so that if it is a competitive internship, if it's some sort of research position, you can be on top of your game and make sure you're applying to those when applications open. That way you can make sure you're doing something during your gap year that you love, but that also looks really good to an admissions officer. However, don't feel like you need to only do science-based or medicine-based things during your gap year. I have students come to me all the time and they're like, I don't want to do medicine stuff. I just want to take a little bit of a break from science before I start medical school. And that is entirely okay. You don't need to do clinical research. You don't need to shadow doctors every waking second of your gap year. It is perfectly fine to do something unrelated to medicine. As long as what you choose to do is challenging, really pushes you and expands you as a person, and something that you're excited to talk to admissions officers about. Watching Netflix every day on your parents' sofa does not count, but there are a lot of different options out there that do. And so that is a summary of the main differences between either going straight through from college to med school or choosing to take a gap year between the two. I think that it's a very individual decision what you end up deciding to do. I think for students who really want to become doctors or students who have quite a bit of student debt, going straight through might be by far the most logical choice. However, if you're someone who wants more time to reflect on what's important to you in life, someone who just wants a little bit of a break before starting medical school, or someone who wants to pursue something that they're not going to have time to pursue once medical school starts, by all means, I encourage those students to take a break and take a gap year. One final caveat before I end this video is that some students will talk about deferring. The plan is like, all right, I'll apply during my junior year, I'll get in, I'll have a spot in a med school class, and then I'll defer for a year. And then that way I can have the most blissful gap year ever. And that might sound really good, and in theory, I'm sure that would be lovely. However, it's important to know that medical schools do not like to offer deferrals to students. The medical school classes are pretty small, anywhere between 100 to 200 students. And so if a lot of students deferred from the class, it would be really, really difficult for admissions officers to make a class that's the size they need. And for that reason, it's actually pretty difficult to be able to defer a year from medical school, unless you have really good reasons. If you're facing a health concern and your doctor writes a note saying that you need some time to recover and can't go to medical school, you'll be absolutely fine. Of course, they'll let you defer. If you get accepted into a really, really prestigious academic program like Rhodes Scholarship or Fulbright, chances are the med school's also going to let you defer because that's eventually going to reflect well on them. However, if you choose to do research at a local university or get a full-time job, it's not likely that the admissions committee at the med schools you were accepted to are going to grant you the ability to defer that admission for a year. And so for that reason, I encourage students to just decide whether or not they want to take a gap year and to act accordingly. And so I hope all of that was helpful. I hope that you guys have a little bit more insight now about making the decision between taking a gap year or not taking a gap year. But if you have any further questions about this topic, please either send me an email, my email's in the description box, or comment on this video, and I'll get back to you guys as quickly as possible. If you learned anything at all from this video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for more tips and tricks about the medical school application process. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.